When it comes to the Metroidvania genre, there are really two main types. You've got your Metroid-likes, which lean into projectile combat and ranged attacks, games like Ghost Song, Axiom Verge, and then you've got your Castlevania-inspired ones, more melee focus, often with RPG mechanics like XP, leveling, and character progression. Of course, a lot of games land somewhere in between those two extremes, but that's the basic spectrum. Now, Zexion is firmly on the Metroid side. In fact, I'd call it a complete reimagining of Super Metroid, but with a twist. Unlike something like Ghost Song, which modernized the classic Metroid formula with modern visuals and physics, Zexion doesn't try to feel modern at all. This is 100% a retro game through and through, right down to its 4:3 aspect ratio. Look, if you're going to make a retro game in the modern era, you better nail it. It has to justify its old school style through pure quality, and honestly, I wouldn't even be talking about Zexion if it didn't absolutely deliver. Graphics. Let's start with the visuals. Zexion's graphics are unapologetically retro. Pixel art, limited color palettes, and all the charm of a classic SNES title. The key thing is, they're appealing. There's a high level of care that went into the presentation. You can even apply multiple visual filters to match your preferred aesthetic, whether you want a CRT effect, a softer pixel look, or a clean, bright presentation. Later in the game, your character becomes customizable, which was a pleasant surprise. You could change the color of your suit, even the hue of your projectiles. It gives you a sense of personalization that many retro-inspired titles skip. As far as capturing the look and feel of a classic Metroid, Zexion absolutely nails it. Now let's get into the story. Now I'll be honest, I really don't give a crap about the story in these type of games. Story isn't what draws me to a Metroidvania, and I know a lot of players feel the same way, but some people don't, and that's fine. Zexion's story is simple. You play as a space warrior on a mission to save their home planet from a devastating cosmic storm. To do that, you're sent to a distant planet called Cypher X-72 in search of a powerful substance known as Zexion. Of course, you're not the only one after it. Other galactic factions are also hunting Zexion for their own more sinister reasons to control or conquer the galaxy. It's not a story-heavy game, but it's enough to create a strong sense of purpose as you explore, and it ties everything together nicely. Here's where Zexion starts to get divisive. The controls. At its core, this is a twin-stick shooter. Your movement and aiming are independent, which gives you incredible precision but also comes with a learning curve. By default, jump is mapped on the L2 button, which can feel weird at first. You can also use the face buttons, which I found myself doing more often when dealing with the tight platforming sections. But generally, you're going to want to use that L2 button when you're engaging in combat. Once you get the hang of it, the juice is worth the squeeze. Personally, I prefer this style because the right stick does give you way more precision than if you were to have the old style where you would have to be stationary to stop and aim. But I do acknowledge it can be a lot to get used to at first. Now let's talk abilities and upgrades. You can't talk about a Metroidvania without mentioning the double jump ability. And Zexion puts its own unique twist on it. Early on you get boosters that act as your double jump, but later in the game you can unlock ability that changes the whole platforming dynamic. If you tap jump without pressing any direction, you hold your position in midair. Then when you tilt your stick, you can launch in that direction. I've genuinely never seen this mechanic done like this before in any genre. It's completely unique to Zexion and feels incredibly satisfying to master. And then there are underwater sections, which, let's be real, are usually the kiss of death for a Metroidvania, but here, they nailed it. You get an underwater jetpack, and this is where the twin stick mechanic really shines. You're gliding, dodging, and firing in every direction like a maniac. It's fast, fluid, and fun, something most games never achieve, which is an underwater section that is good. Well, I have to say, when I got the jetpack, I was hyped. And that's when I realized, even something that is traditionally terrible, like an underwater area, would be awesome in this game. Let's get to combat and bosses. Combat in Zexion is challenging and rewarding. You unlock several beam types, all upgradable with missiles that add extra punch to your arsenal. Fights are all about adaptability, figuring out which weapon or combo best suits your particular enemy or boss. Speaking of boss, they're tough. I mean really tough. But importantly, they're fair. Most bosses have multiple phases. Zexion does something really smart. When you die mid-battle, you often restart whatever phase you reached. If you made it to phase 2, for instance, before dying, you'll start there. Find it extremely fair. It rewards progress without making the game easy. You still earn every win, but it never feels too punishing. One thing I'd like to mention about the boss fights as well, it does remind me of Contra in a great way. For some reason, it has that old school Konami feeling to it. It really is amazing. You'll have to experience to see what I'm talking about, but yeah, it hits, man.
Oh, this is the best boss right here. This boss is awesome. Look at this goddamn thing.
Exploration and map design. Alright, let's talk about exploration, the heart of any Metroidvania. I've seen people online complain about the map system in Zexion, but personally, I think it's brilliantly done. In the beginning, your map only shows your immediate surroundings. You can't see the full layout until you reach a map station, which adds a layer of challenge and old school exploration. I love that because it's difficult for the right reasons. It forces you to learn the terrain, remember paths, and genuinely explore. Now later in the game, you do unlock the ability to see the entire map at once.
Oh, Navcore, what's that? What's Navcore? Oh, now we can look at the whole map. Oh, that's dope. And people were crying about that. Yeah, you can't look at the whole map. Yes, you can. You just gotta get good, and then you can see the whole map. Oh, that's crazy. People were crying about that in the... They obviously didn't play the whole game. I was looking at the all the people on Steam who wrote reviews. There were a couple people in there crying. Oh, you can't see the whole map, blah blah blah. Well, you can if you go to a map station, but now you can totally see the whole map. That's a super good upgrade. So they obviously put that there for a reason, because now you're really going to have to use your brain to figure out where to go. But I'm glad I could see where to go now.
And when that happens, you realize how thoughtfully designed the whole world really is. This game could be hard for the wrong reasons, and that is not this. This game is very difficult and challenging, but for the right reasons. Throughout the years, I've always said that. If you're going to review a game, you should finish the game before you review it, especially if it's a good game, because Zexion rewards you heavily for sticking with it. If you're complaining about the map system, you didn't finish the game, clearly. Atmosphere and sound. I didn't touch much on the sound yet, but it deserves credit. The soundtrack is exactly what you would expect. It's fine, it's not a masterpiece, but it definitely suits the game well. But it's definitely nostalgic in that way. One of the tracks reminded me of Battletoads, the same way some of the bosses remind me of Contra. So, my closing thoughts on Zexion. This game is a love letter to Super Metroid in every possible way. It's challenging, fair, hard for the right reasons, and always engaging. The controls could take some getting used to, but once you master them, the combat becomes something special, a perfect fusion of old school design and twin stick precision. The atmosphere feels familiar but fresh, the exploration top tier, the weapons always fun, never stale. If I had to nitpick, the only real downside is that it has a 4:3 aspect ratio. I get that it may be a stylistic choice, but I think some players would have preferred an optional widescreen mode. So here's my score. Zexion gets a 9.5 out of 10. That's missing half a point purely for the aspect ratio. Everything else is near flawless and what you would want in a retro-inspired Metroidvania. When you make a retro-style game in the modern era, it better be close to perfect, and Zexion is exactly that. If you want to see my full playthrough of Zexion, it's up on my channel in the playlist section. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and on Twitch, where I'm live almost every day streaming. If you want to support what I do, my Venmo and my PayPal are in the description of this video. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.